So I wanted to do this video on a bit of an explanation as to why I don't like the TT Stadium and why I predominantly use Hasbro. For those of you who don't know, I do have a TT Stadium, and I want this video because I get asked this question a lot, and I had someone flat out spreading misinformation and flat out lying about the Hasbro Stadium and the differences between the TT and Hasbro. And he did so ignorantly. I checked his channel though, he had absolutely no videos of anything. And to sum this up, all my combos from Hasbro work in a TT Stadium. As a matter of fact, you can go on Blade Crasher's channel. Whenever I recommend combos that work in the Hasbro, they work in a TT. He's using them and they work. Why is that? Or whenever I'm in, like, I'm looking at combos that people post on the TT and I want to experiment with them myself, a lot of times I will go and use my TT Stadium and my Hasbro and see if there's a difference. And that was mostly in the beginning. Now I realize there's not as much of a difference as people make it out to be. But there is a reason why people still suck in the Hasbro Stadium. And the answer to that is skill. There's a few key differences, and it is a skill issue. The reality is that Hasbro's Stadium is smaller. It's more compact. This does not mean that it's worse. As a matter of fact, it means that battles are over a lot faster. And the other benefit, which is important because for those of you who don't compete in large scale tournaments, realistically, dragging things out is a bit needless. I will say defense types still work, stamina types still work in the Hasbro Stadium. I've not had any issues. As a matter of fact, I've showcased defense types, and they work the same in the Takara Tomy that I have. Why my Takara Tomy now sits in a shelf in my closet, and well, there's a few reasons for that. Number one, there's less space. The only downside to the Hasbro Stadium, if we're being actually intellectually honest, mind you, when I test 8-10 hours at a time. I don't have to test as long now because now I can look at the behavior of a Beyblade and understand it better. I do think there is something to the more you practice, but even my wife would tell you I was practicing 8-10 hours at a time, just trying to get good, learning techniques, learning. And again, one of the things I will say is that it's very difficult to utilize technique in the Hasbro Stadium. Number one, there's no real ledge for you to ledge stall on. So your technique is usually attempting to, with a stamina or defense type, launch towards the left rail with a right spin and then allow it to either slide in with a tilt and slide into the attack type, or launch it flatter so that way it stalls on the left rail. I don't like that stall on the left rail because a lot of times I've found if their attack type base skips over the X rail, they come directly, they hit you. It takes a lot of your stamina away. However, if you drop in, it a lot of times forces them to ride the X rail, and you're still mobile, especially since the shape of the concave feels differently. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know exactly why. Maybe one of these days I'll pull the TT out and examine it. But I feel like the way that things interact with the concave, you can pendulum stamina types easier, although it's harder to do that same rocking back and forth, which I have a tutorial on the Lotus technique in the Hasbro than it is the Takara Tomy. Much easier to do centric control in the Takara Tomy. But I noticed a few things, a few key differences. Number one, there's less launch space on a Hasbro, meaning you get better at launching and positioning faster than you do with TT. I have not looked back since I've been using Hasbro because I've gotten significantly better with launching. I noticed that when I got into a TT Stadium for competitive, I had a lot more room. And again, it's not that I in any way, shape, or form think the TT Stadium is bad, but forcing your opponents to, there's a psychological aspect to it as well. And I think Blader03 talked about it, about occupying your space. I will occupy my space, and then it's one of those things where look at where my opponent is going to occupy space in a Hasbro, right? And because of that, I'm like, oh, okay, I need to launch that way to hit my opponent. When I got to the TT Stadium, it was so much easier. As a matter of fact, I found that knocking things out in a TT stadium is easier than a Hasbro. I noticed Hasbro feels very steep, and because of the tight space, things are constantly hitting, and there's not a lot of space for things to even out. So things tend to be tilted when defense types or stamina types get hit really hard. A lot of times they catch the rail, come back. So you don't have a lot of space to work with, and hawking down an opponent's bay is very difficult and takes a lot of skill. It's a skill issue, and I've noticed every high-level player who's used the Hasbro initially might have been put off by it. I never bring my own confirmation bias opinions or the opinions of others when I test things. I always go for my own build. Somebody actually told me, they're like, oh, hey, you and Nazuma had similar builds because you both used 560 on Drawn Dagger. And I didn't even think about that, but he did. He used 560, but he used Rush, I used Point. Why? There's variance and differences between how people launch. Are you holding your launcher like this? Is it on a tilt? Do you naturally hold like this? Do you pull up like this? My shoulder's hurting right now, so I can't quite super demonstrate, but you see what I'm saying? Everybody's different. No two Beybladers are going to launch the same. So a combo maybe that doesn't work for you may work for someone else. And you might be great in the TT Stadium and terrible in the Hasbro Stadium. One of the things I learned that's important in the Hasbro Stadium is consistency. So one of the reasons why these sets typically work so well is because realistically, if it cannot consistently eke out a win, if it cannot consistently do a specific thing, you're going to end up, right, not using it in Hasbro. Whereas TT, I've noticed it's easier for things to get knockouts. It's also easier for things to come out of the pocket. Another reason why I don't like Hasbro is because, or I don't like TT Stadium, I don't like things coming out of the pocket. Like, some of you might, but for me, right, I don't get too many accidental KOs. I'm usually hawking my opponent down with an attack type. And I do it in Metal Fight as well. You guys can go ahead and look at my Metal Fight videos. I like to hawk down my opponent, and based on the positioning of the bay will change, and how my opponent launches will change my strategy. So imagine how annoying it is when I get my KO, I get my knockout, and then you come back in and then you hit me, and then because you're going softer, it like lessens my stamina, destabilizes, and then you win with your Wizard Rod that climbed its way out of the pocket, or your Phoenix Wing that climbed its way out of the pocket when I knocked you out with my drawn sword to begin with. You're not the better player at that point. You're not. You're just exploiting something. And I get it, right? Sometimes you have to exploit. But like, that's pure chance if you climb out. Yeah, you could use 160. A lot of the guys, though, that I noticed use 160, very few of them are super skilled. There are some that are. A great example is Mad Maxi. That guy is like the king of Phoenix Wing on 160. That man, his Phoenix Wing scares me. His Phoenix Wing is like my drawn sword. The level of control he has, the way it blows my mind. And he uses TT. But you'll notice he has a really good control. He's really good at utilizing his techniques and doing them appropriately. But with the Hasbro Stadium, I don't have to worry about those kinds of crazy knockouts. Most people running 160 or 160 on not just Phoenix Wing, on anything, are just trying to climb out of a pocket. It has nothing to do with skill. It's just over-reliance on a build. And I think over-reliance on a build or on a part is kind of dangerous, because what happens if you need that part for X, Y, and Z? I try to keep the mentality of going into... as weird as this might sound, like when I'm going into a tournament, I typically will have multiple different combos for the same bay based off of what I need it to do. So I think Hasbro Stadium made me a better builder, made me a better player. There is a consensus that Hasbro is worse. And the guy was like, oh, well, you're worshiping Zenki. I said, no. I said, Zenki went back, and you can look at Zenki's footage and see that Zenki literally shows the difference between Hasbro and TT. They're not that different. To be honest, I think it's about as low IQ as you can get to say that the Hasbro product is worse. Well, you're gonna have to get used to it if you want to compete in official tournaments, because the official tournaments that I went to, it was just Hasbro. The local card shop I was at, is Hasbro. And for the price that you're going to pay for a TT Stadium, a Hasbro Stadium comes with two awesome bays. You get Drawn Dagger, you get Rush, you get an extra taper, you get a cool colored taper, a cool colored 360, you get Rush and 460, and you get Drawn Dagger and Tusk Mammoth. You get some really good parts for less, because the TT Stadium that I bought was $50. Granted, I bought mine used, but it ended up still being like 35 bucks. And this is way back, because I bought it used. I just wasn't going to order it new for that price. I'm like, you know? And then I ended up buying, and it had been used like twice. And then the guy bought another TT Stadium, because there's some different colors and stuff. They have like a clear one. They have one that's really cool, like the Hasbro, and it's black and green, that I saw someone had in a video. And so like they just have some cool colors. But then it was like the Hasbro one you could pick up at Walmart right now and get two Beyblades. It's a no-brainer for me. I don't really, and some of you guys may know, you've seen my videos where I literally won't, when I know that something's lost, I'm not going to sit there and wait around. I'm just going to, and part of that comes from playing, like, especially competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, right? There's times where you're just like, I scoop, I surrender, and you move on to the next game because you know you lost. What's the point of bringing your ego into it? I think part of the problem is that people bring their egos into everything. Everybody on the internet thinks that their opinion is right. And it's like none of these people have wins. I see this in the burst community. And it's usually young males in their bravado and their ignorance, right? And then they usually talk in a way where they're like, no, this is the best. And it's like, well, the best is relative. The best is relative. And we see this in racing, right? To give you an example, 1,000 horsepower is great for drag racing, but if you're rally racing on tight roads, it might not be the best. You might run into some problems. You might want to tune that down, right? Big Mickey Thompson drag radials on the back of your Camaro might be great for drag racing. They're not good for tarmac or dirt rally. They don't help you at all. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to build? For me, I noticed my skill began going up using the Hasbro Stadium. I get that there are people who don't like it. The way you feel about Hasbro is how I feel about Takara Tomy. And when I started using the Hasbro Stadium was when I started winning a lot easier, because I realized I was practicing positioning on this stadium that actively fights against you for positioning. So when I was in the TT, the irony is that I was just like, oh, I got all this space, and I would dominate and occupy space differently. It changed my mentality. And I realized I got a lot better, faster using the Hasbro Stadium. And I got to the point where I realized if I really wanted to test the combo, I have to test against myself launching, and, you know, I don't see the point of me using TT, especially not to appeal to a bunch of people that don't get what this channel is about. This channel is about how I competitively test. It was started because people in my area were like, you know, one of the things, actually, the reasons why I started this channel is because I saw the Blade Crashers. I saw what Troy and Jeremy were doing, and I was like, this is awesome. They're just playing Beyblade. And they got into Beyblade X, and they're playing Beyblade X, and I saw their Metal Fight videos and them in T-Flame, and it inspired me. But one of the things I loved about their channel is that they're just literally two dudes eating, and T-Flame too, eating food, playing Beyblade, and enjoying. And they're pretty good. You look at T-Flame, it's the same thing. Does he do competitive? Sure. But he's just a lot of times having fun, right? Trying new things. And I realized my channel is never meant to appeal to the masses. I have no interest. I mean, I thank you guys so much for 100 subs, but I don't see the point of being facetious and doing what's the coolest. Or if I want to review something, I will. If I want to build a combo on something, I will. I do have some suggestions that people suggested to me that I really like. So I want to do those videos because they sound like fun. I think that people don't understand what fun really means. This channel is about fun, and it's my passion, and it's sharing the more fun side of competitive and other things. My next video is going to be a Big Bang video where I go over Big Bang Pegasus, and then I'm basically taking the suggestions people have left Because I would rather appeal to the fans of this channel than people who are just here to criticize, which I promise you, most of them don't compete at all. I do think in some ways I wanted to kind of move a little bit away from competitive and more into fun because I'm getting not burnt out. It's just I'm starting to realize, like, and I still enjoy testing combos more than like I feel even a lot of competitive, and part of that is because like now it's to the point where like I'm not tired of competitive, but I'm starting to enjoy just like Rant bats. Like, oh God, man, me, Damien, Sonia, and Robert, some dear friends of mine. We have meetups where we just play Beyblade, and it's so much fun. And we were doing like Rant bats where we get random parts. So is it a competition? Yes. It is, but it's not it's not I'm gonna build this. And Damien won the last one hands down. Destroyed us all. He destroyed us all. But that's what I'm saying. I'm having more fun. I think I'm to a point where I've realized, like, yes, I'm skilled. I'm obviously am. I'm good. Whatever. I guess I just don't care about that as much as I do having fun with Beyblades. And I'm always going to do competitive videos and competitive, but it's one of those things where it's weird to be questioned by people on the internet who you have no videos of you. I don't care about you posting your tournament winnings. I don't care about you being number one. Like, I know guys who are really good that had a bad day at a tournament. Heck, I've had a bad day at a tournament too. But where are your videos showcasing what you do? Nowhere, but you have an opinion. And it's Dunning-Kruger effect. I've realized what it is. Like in the science world, we call that, in scientific world, we call it the Dunning-Kruger effect, where it's like, the irony is if you ask me, well, you know a lot about Beyblade X, I'd tell you, I do, but I don't. There's still combos that I have yet to test that I have written down in my notes, because I just haven't had the time. I've been focusing on other combos, and I want to do a video on needle. So I've been somewhat practicing about needle and how I don't think it's useless, and I think it's one of the best defense bits because I've noticed needle and dot work on almost anything defensively. Hexa is niche, and some Beyblades are actually worth using Hexa. Some Beyblades are better, like Silverwolf. God, that thing on Hexa and dot is just a little monster, but it doesn't like needle at all. I think it's because dot self-corrects. But my point is, like, these people have these opinions, and I get it. Some of you may want to see me do a TT Stadium play. It's like, but I don't enjoy that. This channel is me doing the less, instead of sitting there for 10 hours a day just practicing for competitive. This channel is a therapy for me to just go and play with what I want to play with and have fun and spend time with you guys and just kind of do things that I like to do. So I probably, now that people are breaking me over the coals to use TT, I'm just going to say it. I'm never going to use a TT Stadium. How's that? If it makes you mad, fine. My fans understand, though. Like, one of the things I love about you guys, thank you, is that you guys just are like, oh, somebody having fun with Beyblade. And that's the kind of community I want to build. I don't want to build a community where everything is super serious and ultimate. Like, that's stupid. That's dumb. And those communities are usually toxic and run by toxic people. You should be able to do what you want and have fun, right? Like, that's the reality. Now, if you wanted to just be a complete and total snob who, like, the irony is, are there channels out there that, yeah, they just do terrible clickbaity? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't care. The growth isn't worth it to me. I would rather have people subscribe to this channel for cool, fun combos. And again, they perform exactly the same. If yours don't, that is a skill issue. And if you're really open-minded and you want to grow, start working on your technique. Correct how you launch. Correct how where you're launching. Think. Process. Look up tutorials. There's tons of tutorials. I might do some more tutorials, but again, tutorials kind of felt a little bit too competitive, and it's one of the reasons I didn't want to do it too much on the channel. But I feel like more just having fun with combos and just putting things out there and fun video ideas that you guys suggest. Um, I think that's something. It's what I enjoy, and I don't get tired of it, and I'd rather do that. So yeah, I'm never going to use a TT stadium. I'm just going to say that now. I'm never going to use one in the video. Heck, I don't even use it when I practice, and I do fine when I go to tournaments. I do fine when I play with friends. You put me in anything, and I'm lethal. If you ask Michael Jordan if it was the jersey he was wearing that made him the best basketball player, if you ask Tommy Mäkinen if it was just the car, he'll tell you, well, the car had something to do with it, but I'm just a good rally driver, right? Michael Jordan will be like, well, the jersey's nice, but I'm just a good basketball player, right? You cannot make up for skill. And so I've learned, though, that there are things that are more fun than competitive in skill, and some of that is just me having fun on this channel and doing what I do. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. I am not going to appeal to people just because they're like, oh, are you gonna? It's like, probably not. Because again, it didn't make a difference. I performed better in the TT Stadium after practicing in Hasbro. And I've had a few of the other top players, because we're all friends and we all, iron sharpens iron, and we exchange numbers, we become great friends. They felt the same way. At first, they had to adjust to Hasbro, and then they started doing a lot better. And now it's to the point where, like, when we do our All-Stars, and it's just like those of us who have the most points for the season locally, and Miguel holds that tournament, we're using exclusively Hasbro. And I run Wizard Rod on ball and that, and I do fine, ironically. Yeah, I do like Wizard Rod. I use it, not because it's good, but because he's round and I like him. I don't know. Wizard Arrow and Wizard Rod, I like them both. My first video on here was Wizard Arrow. It's not a try-hard thing. It's just I like Wizard Rod and I like Wizard Arrow. But that's going to do it for me. This video's gone on long enough. I just wanted to take the time out of the day to explain. I built this channel watching people. Like, you look at Galactic Bays, what are his videos? He is having the time of his life playing in those stadiums. You look at T-Flame, he's just having fun testing. You look at Blade Crashers, they are just having fun. They got a pizza in one hand, they're putting their mouth and they're launching their Beyblades, man. And it's so bizarre to me because, God, there's so many good creators, and I realized, right, that I want to have fun. I don't care about appealing to masses. I don't care what the masses want. And a good rule of thumb for those of you who want to be successful in life, don't follow the masses. Don't allow their opinions, irrelevant opinions, to poison your well. And this is just a little life lesson for me. You're going to want instead to look at the people who have what you have, who have have what you want, that have the success you want. Listen to them. Follow their pattern. Carve your own way, but there's nothing wrong with carving your own path, but starting on theirs. There's nothing wrong with looking at what somebody who has something that you want, right? And then following their pattern. And then once you start to get it, deviating and carving your own path. I think we need one another, and iron sharpens iron. Find somebody who has what you want and follow them. And I think that's follow their path and then carve your own niche. You don't have to be a trailblazer to be the best. But yeah, in life, don't follow the masses. Don't. Give them their space. Observe, hear out what they have to say. Take what's useful and that you feel is useful to you and use it. But don't ever allow them to put you in any kind of box. So that's going to do it for me. This video is almost 25 minutes. To my subs, I want to thank you for everything that you guys have done in supporting me in this channel. You have no idea how much it means to me. And I love you guys. Thank you for supporting me having fun and enjoying myself on this channel. So thank you. I love you guys. I will see you guys in the next video, which will be Big Bang Pegasus.